Elden Ring fashion. I'm not sure about you, but I can't get it off my mind, and this is basically my endgame right now in Elden Ring, which is why in today's video we'll take a look at even more armor sets, including their altered versions that will make you question your own wardrobe and kinda wish people still wore something like this these days. But nonetheless, in this video we'll take a look at 6 of these armor sets that, in my opinion, look extremely unique and very cool. Now, before you begin farming some of these sets, I recommend having a high arcane rating or at least some item discovery. There's a few items that help with that, especially some of these silver pickled fowl foot. Of course, you can farm for these. You will get some of these if you are later in the game, but there's also a crafting recipe that I will talk about later in the video because now we will concentrate on the armor sets. Beginning with the Banished Knight set and the alternate version. This set has both a default and an alternative version to it, which both drop as separate items from the Banished Knight enemies. So no, using a sewing kit will not help changing between these two versions. You will need to farm for these pieces independently. Now, the 3 spots that you can use, and the first one that I recommend the most is the one in Khaled at the Cathedral of Dragon's Communion. Personally, I think this is the easiest. The enemy spawns right there by the side of Grace, so you can farm it quite easily. It also uses the alternate chest piece with the regular helmet, but don't worry, it can drop pretty much the non-alternate versions as well. The same goes with the one in the room on the secondary path in Stormvale Castle, the one that ambushes you right here in this room. You can also farm for this. This one features the helmet without the scarf, but again can drop pretty much any piece from these sets. And finally, there is another option in Castle Soul here in the mountaintops. You can use the lift and then descend from the rooftop, jumping onto this inner wall section. There's going to be another Banished Knight protected by 2 wolves, but this one is a bit too difficult and it's quite hard to jump back at that side of Grace, but that's why I recommended the one in Khaled. Now, there's going to be 2 variants, as I've said. The first one, and likely the one that most people will have, is going to be the scarf variant, as in the one with the normal head and the alternate chest piece. But the better looking version is going to be this one with the alternate headpiece and the normal chest piece. Don't ask me why From Software decided to switch things around like this, but this is the better looking version that's a bit more rare. It has the cape for the chest piece, which looks really awesome, and especially if you combine it with the helmet, which also has a bunch of dreads slash some kind of hair that goes down the spine. In all honesty, this is going to be one of the coolest looking knight sets that you can get, well, relatively early in the game if you're lucky to get these alternate versions. Now, the next armor set is going to be even more incredible. This is the Beast Champion set, another one that has a chest piece that looks better when it's not altered. So this one drops from Knight Bernal after defeating him, but you kind of have a couple of options here. Either at the start of the game immediately go to the Warmaster's shack and defeat him, which is going to give you the armor, or if you want his part of the quest line at the Volcano Manor, wait until you do that part of the quest line, finish the Volcano Manor contracts, and he's also going to give you his contract. From that point on, if you complete that, he's going to spawn and invade you at the Crumbling Azula. So here is this route. Besides the bridge waypoint, you will want to head over opposite of Maliket's boss room, head inside this big building with a big balcony on the right, and descend using this balcony ladder. Once you reach this point, he is going to invade you right here at the end of the bridge, right before this room with the chest inside. And once you defeat him, he's going to drop the really awesome armor set with the altered version of the chest piece and 2 really strong weapons. Now, at first the set might look a bit underwhelming, and that's because you haven't unaltered that chest piece. So you can go ahead, use a sewing kit. In my case, I had the golden one, but I think it works with the default as well, and get the much more improved and arguably the best looking cape in all Elden Ring right now. This one features an exquisite blue collar cape with golden accents, an overpiece cloth, and what I think is some kind of jewelry on the back, but to me it honestly looks kind of like a hanging chandelier. Nonetheless, you will look like a complete royalty, like a true king of Elden Ring when you have this on your back. It's my favorite, so much so that I likely will wear this with any knight character that I will create from this point on. But moving on to number 3, let's talk about the Black Flame Monk set, a more medium armor for anyone who likes Black Flame spells or wants to cosplay as a Godskin kind of great sword user. It's entirely farmable from the Black Flame Monk enemies, and there's a couple of them that you can find. One of them is in the basement of the Divine Tower of Khaled, right here very close to the side of Grace, farmable before the boss room, so it's an easy easy way to do it. But there's also another one really close to the Temple of Agley, right here towards the Volcano Manor. Easy to farm, but you will have to defeat the Godskin boss inside of this church so that you can have the Set of Grace available for an easier farm. Now, I'm not entirely sure what the lore behind the Godskin Apostles is, but the chest piece features some kind of head with one eye, a full-on face over there, full metal, looks really awesome, and of course also the arms and the feet feature similar metal sections that combined with the cloth makes it really stand out. Like, this set is definitely awesome. There's also an alternate version of this, which is the Fire Monk set, pretty much the same kind of aesthetic, but it has a fire theme going on, and you have to farm those from the Fire Monks that you can find either at the entrance in Castle Layed right here in Mount Gelmir as you make your way towards the Volcano Manor, or you can also find one before the entrance in the Guardian's Garrison in the mountaintops. That one also has similar attack patterns, so you can farm either of these. But the set, in my opinion, looks way better than the bland kind of like gray version that we just talked about. Of course, it's a matter of choice. There's also a slight difference between these two sets. They both weight about the same, but one of them has slightly bigger poise, 39 for the black flame, while the one with the red flames only has 34. But yeah, the fire variant also gives better resistances, especially to, in this case, fire damage. Now, moving on to number 5, the next one is going to be the Fingerprint armor set. And actually, this is easy to acquire. You don't have to farm any enemies in particular. You just have to head over right here, very close to the same spot you used to farm the Fire Monk set. There's going to be the Lord Contender's Ever Goal, really close to the side of Grace, which is going to put you against Knight Vike, a really annoying enemy that tends to roll all over the place. But once you defeat them, they give you this cool armament enchant that we talked about in a previous video, and also the Fingerprint armor set. There's only a couple of armor sets in all Elden Ring that feature a purple color scheme, and this is the one that has the most amount of purple-ish going on. It looks really awesome, only weighs about 25, so quite a bit less than the Black Flame Monk set, and it provides, well, slightly less resistances to that, but a lot more poise at 40, so it's definitely going to be worth it. It also has a more kind of like roguish aesthetic. It's not as bulky as the previous sets, so it seems to be on the lighter side and definitely fits that theme. It's definitely one of my favorite in the game just because of those aesthetics, and for some reason it reminds me a bit of the Black Knife set, even though that has a kind of like cloak going on rather than a helmet. And finally, this brings us to the last very unique armor set to talk about, and that's going to be the Depraved Perfumer armor set. You can actually farm this in a couple of locations, the earliest being the village of the Albinorics. There's a Depraved Perfumer enemy right here, the one that throws the explosive mist at you, so I recommend having a ranged character or using ranged attacks against them for a much easier farm. You can also farm it at this shaded castle right here towards the north of Altus Plateau. There's even more of these enemies, especially on the outer and inner walls, and you can more easily farm it right there, and they don't seem to be too much different than the one in the Albinorics village. Once you get it, you can look pretty cool in my opinion, especially like the chest piece with the cape looks really unique. You kind of have this coat fur going on the back with some red accents in the inside part of it. Looks really awesome, at least for the chest piece, and of course you also get to rock it very early in the game, but again it's going to be on the lighter side, so it doesn't have much in terms of defenses if you're looking for that. Now, as far as that silver pickled fowl foot, as I've said, you do need to farm a bunch of items for these, so if you want to get the recipe for that, you need to head over to this Church of Marika right here as you make your way over in Caelid. You have to defeat an invader, and it's going to be right here on the side of Grace. From this point on, you will need some Roa fruits, so you can find 6 just around the first step side of Grace, so very early on in the game. Actually, all of the recipe is craftable with very early on items. The same goes with the silver fireflies. You can find them in the Groveside cave, which is one of the earliest caves you can jump into at the start of the game right here with the wolves. And finally, the fowl toad, fowl foot. There's a bunch of eagles in the starting area as well as in the Weeping Peninsula, all around some of these ledges. You can find a ton of them even at the Church of Marika, and you can farm for them quite easily to get a ton of these silver pickled fowl foods. This is it with the farming. Let me know down below which one of these armor sets is your favorite, and I'm gonna leave you guys at it. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.